ARK Survival Evolved is a huge game, not only in terms of the size of its maps and the content, but also the music, as well as the size of the game file. The ARK soundtrack is one of my favourite game soundtracks, and it sets the tone perfectly for such an epic and exciting game. The music was written by Gareth Coker over the span of 2 years. The soundtrack consists of a total of 1 hour and 14 minutes worth of epic orchestral music, and was recorded in just 3 days by the London Philharmonia Orchestra at Abbey Road Studios, the biggest purpose-built recording studio in the world. The massive 93-piece orchestra features strings, woodwinds, percussion, a piano, a choir, and brass. So today I'm going to be discussing the main theme of the ARK soundtrack and how the composer uses the instruments of the orchestra to create an exciting piece of music using 4 closely linked elements. These are texture, how thick or thin the music sounds; layering, how different instrument roles are used on top of each other; the instrumentation, what instruments are playing the different roles; and the structure, the overarching scaffolding of the music. So all of these elements play a significant role in creating a well-rounded piece of music that has a clear and logical structure. A good way to think about textures and layers in music is with cake. Let's say you have a sponge cake. This could represent one instrument playing as a solo instrument. This would create a thin monophonic texture because you would just have a single line melody. Now, if you have a 3-tiered chocolate cake, then that could represent 3 different instruments playing the same melody. So even though there are 3 different instruments, because they're all playing the same thing, this would still result in a thin texture. And if you have a 7-layered cake with 3 different flavors, that could mean that there are 7 different instruments which have a total of 3 different roles, such as the melody, harmony, and rhythm. This would result in a thick texture because there are those 3 different roles, as well as a lot more instruments. So why exactly should you use texture and layering in music? The main reason is to keep the music interesting and exciting throughout the whole piece. If you just had a 1-line melody being played on one instrument for 3 minutes straight, then that would get pretty boring pretty quickly. In the main theme for ARK Survival Evolved, the melodic motif for the entire game is introduced, and is used several times in the main theme as well as throughout the rest of the game. But because of the way that Gareth Coker layers the instruments and builds the thickness of the texture, the original idea is kept interesting rather than just simply being repeated with the same level of excitement. Using texture and layering in music helps keep the music moving, as there's a variety of different sounds that can be used, and the more instruments that are available, then the wider palette of sounds that can be created. The different thick and thin sections of the main theme create a great contrast and help to build tension leading up to the thickest and most exciting part of the music. So this piece is a great example of the intertwined relationship that texture and structure have with each other. In the main theme, the texture and layering of the music correlates directly with its structure. Just as a general rule, thicker textures are usually used in the chorus or the main section of a piece of music, while thinner textures are usually used for the intro, outro, or bridge sections. There is a lot of music that doesn't abide exactly by this, but there is usually a difference between the texture and the layering somewhere through the music. So, what is the structure of this main theme from ARK? Well, this is what it looks like. Each section has its own thickness and set of instruments that are used. It begins with the intro, with a cello playing the melody. And a piano supporting that with harmony and later the melody. There is some brass in the background that has a harmonic role, and the percussion sprinkles some rhythm throughout the intro. As section A is introduced, the piece becomes thicker and fuller in sound, with more instruments added that have more complex roles. The B section returns to a thinner texture, with similar instrumentation as the intro, although this time a different melody is used, and the texture sounds a bit thicker because of the more complex rhythm in the background, made by the percussion and the strings. The use of this thinner B section helps to make the following A section even more exciting and interesting as it comes back. The same material is used here as compared to the original A section, and builds in thickness, layers and dynamics, with the coda or outro being the thickest part of the piece. The entire piece of music has been building up to this point, and Gareth Coker uses everything that he can to make the wait worth it for the listener. It's no easy feat to create an equally epic soundtrack to such an epic game, but Gareth Coker encapsulates the sheer size of the game within the main theme, let alone the entire soundtrack. The texture and structure of music is often overlooked, but it's one of the most important parts because it creates a foundation for which all the other elements can be built upon and helps the music flow from one idea to the next in a way that makes sense. If you think that I should look at some more music from the ARK soundtrack, then leave a comment below, because I'd love to make some more videos on it. Anyway, I really hope that you got something out of the video today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. See ya.